Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals, Quality Education, describes STEM and STEAM curriculum. There are currently two educational approaches to teaching children in the U.S., the STEM curriculum and the STEAM curriculum. STEM focuses on educating students in 4 specific disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. STEM incorporates these principles into a cohesive paradigm that encourages motivation, engagement, and employs real-world applications. STEAM adds the arts to education and uses the 5 points to guide student inquiry, dialogue, and critical thinking. STEM supporters believe that curriculum naturally involves the arts. Examples include product design and the communication skills needed for language arts. STEAM supporters say incorporating the arts into the other disciplines devalues arts' importance. These two forms of teaching are not too different from each other. Exploring opportunities where art naturally fits into the STEM narrative can help create a healthy balance. Treating art as an applied subject, such as math and science, will give students a new discipline to learn that can also be applied to real-world situations. Design classes can help students learn how to create logos and organize information into presentations. Performing arts, like drama and speech, can help translate into technical writing and persuasive writing skills, which are abilities used in technology-driven and marketing career fields. Creative planning calls for students to use the right side of their brain to think outside of the box, which can come in handy when needing to create content and innovative thinking. Science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics are all important factors that make up the curriculum. Being able to learn about all of them will lead to well-rounded and versatile professionals.
So Dr. Ejim is a distinguished biochemist. He's known for his expertise in liquid biochemistry. He embarked on an academic journey that culminated in the attainment of a PhD in biochemistry from the STEM University of Calabar in 2019. His doctoral research focused on the intricate realm of liquid biochemistry, delving into the complexity of lipid and their application in various biological processes. Dr. Daniel Ejim is currently a lecturer at Federal University of Health Sciences, Utupo, Benue State, Nigeria. You're welcome, Dr. Uti, and we are glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to be here in this presentation. This is a wonderful conference. I hope you're hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you clearly, Doctor.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually going to be presenting on advancements in renewable energy. And I'm going to use, professionally, I'm going to be coming from the biochemical point of view, because I may not just deal with every aspect of renewable energy, but I'm going to be putting much emphasis on the aspect that has biological implications. Now, this is my outline, the outline for our discussion, which is there. So basically, when we are looking at renewable energy. That, the implication is that there is energy that is not renewable. And the emphasis on renewable energy now is because of the non-renewable energy sources, which are mostly fossil fuels and coal and all of that, they are finite. They are not infinite, they are finite, such that as you use these energies, over depending on these energies with time, can lead to the exhaustive utilization of these energy sources. So there is a need for alternative energy sources, which are sustainable. Because when you look at fossils are no form of energy sources that takes millions of years to form. So if you depend on such a source of energy, our present generation, in fact, the next 10 generations, you may not have fossils that could be useful. So, but these alternative sources of energy are energy sources that can be easily obtained and can be managed within our environment. And most of these fossil energy sources they are not environmentally friendly. But when you look at these alternative sources of energy, they are environmental friendly and they are renewable. You can always harness these energy sources, which are mostly of biological materials. Now, we have different types of these energy sources, mostly solar energy, wind energy, hydropower, biomass energy, geothermal energy, and ocean energy. But as a biochemist, I may be laying much emphasis from the biomass energy, which is a form of renewable source of energy. One of the major importance of renewable energy is that it is, it does not contribute much, or it has insignificant effect to greenhouse gas emissions compared to all these fossil energy sources, which contribute significantly to greenhouse gases and lead to environmental degradation. And another importance of renewable energy is that it is the diversification. We have different sources. It's not just reliance of few sources. We have different sources of these renewable energies. And they also have economic benefits. They can create jobs. Unlike fossils, which are being managed by few, this renewable energy source, especially the bioenergy, even the locals in our communities can contribute to this energy development. Now, one of the important form of this renewable energy is the feedstock bioenergy production. This form of bioenergy is actually obtained from food substances. It could be from glucose-rich or carbohydrate-rich sources within our environment. It could be from the food we eat. It could be from any foodstuff around you. It could be from the waste, from feed consumption around us. They're actually applicable in feedstock energy, bioenergy production. But sometimes the worry about feedstock bioenergy production is that it seems to lay, a competition because of the growing human population, between the energy utilization from feedstock energy and the available energy use. So we have to balance that. But there is, in the current advancement in bioenergy production, we depend much on the lignocellulosic biomass. When we are looking at lignin, the lignocellulosic biomass composed mainly of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. These are complex carbohydrates. They are complex carbohydrates found in plant sources, like even in our vegetables around us. They are found in the vegetation, even the plants around us, in the environment, the grasses and all of that. You can have lignin from them, from stem bark and all of that. We can use this as alternative sources of energy. One of the major energy source that is used as a replacement for the fossil fuel is the bioethanol. The bioethanol, I think from our statistics from this study, like the United States of America, 57% of bioethanol is produced in the US, while Europe, China, India, Canada, and others where Africa belongs is just like 3% that does into this bioethanol production. Bioethanol is very important in that the mixture of bioethanol with gasoline can be used effectively in our car engines. And the advantage of dependence on bioethanol is that it produces little or insignificant generation of the greenhouse gases compared to the fossil fuel, gasoline, and all of that. So one of the advantages of this is that it's a major substitute, and it can be obtained from fermentation of sugars and various lignin cellulosic sources. You know, lignin is a complex form of carbohydrate. The difference from this with starch and other fiber components is just the intramolecular bonding between these molecules. Because I'm going to be a bit brief on that, because we're actually not in a biochemistry class. But I want us to know that this renewable energy source, looking at the biochemical implication, this diagram is a summary of the different stages. The first one here, we have the first generation of renewable energy from a bioethanol production. This is from crops. Crops here could be soybeans, could be sugarcane, could be corn, other starchy products. But the challenge with this first generation alternative to energy source is that it places a serious demand on the food chain. It places a serious demand on the food chain when we depend on the normal food sources that are edible for energy sources. So it places a serious demand on the food chain, especially with the growing human population. But the second generation, which is an alternative to the first generation energy source, is mainly the lignocellulosic source, which could be stem bark, it could be peels, it could be waste, it could be your grasses, it could be anything around us. But the challenge again with this second generation energy source, that it could also alter to some extent the ecosystem, because when you depend much on harvesting the grasses around us, harvesting the trees, harvesting the stem barks, you try to get the plant sources around the environment, it could lead to environmental degradation. So although it is a better alternative in terms of production of greenhouse gases, but the challenge is that over-dependence on this second generation energy source is that it could affect the ecosystem around us in this second generation. But because of that, there is a risk, the third generation energy source, which is very important and which has little or no effect on the arable land around us. The farm settlements around us are not actually affected, which is mainly the marine environment. The marine environment is another source of generation of an alternative source of energy, not just the water body, but also for the development of algae bloom within the marine ecosystem. Remember, this algae a rich source of lignin and all these other sources of energy, so that, remember, human dependence on the aquatic environment is not as much as the dependence on the arable land and farmlands. So if we if the future generations and development, because we discovered that this algae is is a source that grows with little or no input. So the multiplication of algae within the aquatic environment require little input from human resources. So it's a better source for this alternative source of energy compared to the first generation and second generation that have some effect on the arable lands and the ecosystem around us. Then we also have the fourth generation, which is dependent on the solar source of light, of energy, and activation of biomass. So instead of over-dependent on fossil fuels, we use the alternative sources where we use advanced technologies, which is currently in place, but it has not yet been adapted by most nations or most ecosystem. Maybe it is still in progress. Like using the alternative source, especially the solar energy, is a better alternative because it produces little or no greenhouse gas effect. So lignocellulose sources basically are the highest and the largest renewable sources of bioethanol production. And so if we look at them, if we look at these lignocellulose sources, we have discussed the marine algae, the agricultural residue and municipal waste, and forest wood feedstock. But I think the first from our study, the first, which is the marine environment, will place little or less pressure on the ecosystem. So it's a better source of a renewable energy. So one of the advantages of using the dependence on marine algae is that it has a high growth rate and can be cultivated outside the arable lands and have a potential to produce both biofuels and other sources of energy production. Now, from the biochemical point of view, these algal lipids are convertible into biodiesels via trans-esterification. You know, our basic chemistry of esterification, where lipids interact with alcohol to generate esters and water, but in trans-esterification, it's a production of another form of ester from esters and alcohol. So this is this can be obtained from algal lipids, and also we can also obtain from carbohydrates, which can be obtained by fermentation. So lignocellulosic biomass composition, when we look at basically we have cellulose, we have hemicellulose, and we have lignin within the algal cell walls. So they are all composition, which can be between these compounds. It's just their bonding interactions between the cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. This and the human population depend much on these sources of biomass. Mostly just acting as, most of these sources act as fiber in diet, but we can use this alternative source biomass for energy production, which cannot affect the human ecosystem. In producing a bioethanol from lignocellulosic biomass, we can have our sources, which is a lignocellulosic biomass, undergoing pretreatment and enzyme digestion. Now, enzyme hydrolysis can remove lignin. From enzyme, remember in lignin and cellulose and hemicellulose, we still have our glucose. The difference here is just the bonding. So we have cellulose enzymes that can break down cellulose to glucose and eliminating lignin. So from there, when we have our glucose, the glucose, other sources of glucose, or maloses, we can have our ethanol fermentation. And ethanol of yeast, then from distillation, we can have our bioethanol. So basically, we can also get this from the basic starch and carbohydrates that we use, but to avoid putting pressure on the food chain that is highly dependent on starch and the basic carbohydrate like feedstuff, we can try to adopt these modern methods in our quest for energy sources. Now, the advantage of these energy sources is that these energy sources do not actually, they are something that you can generate continuously, unlike the fossil fuels. Fossil fuel takes years to get formed, take millions of years to get formed. But these renewable energy sources, you can generate these energy sources on a continuous basis. So it's a better alternative as in our quest for a sustainable environment and reducing the pressure and the generation of greenhouse gases. And we also, so I'm not going to discuss the pathways in details, but I'm just going to mention them. Now, one of the major pathways in bioenergy production is fermentation, converting sugars into bioethanols and renewable energy. Now, the current advancement is the enhancement of genetically modified organisms that optimize fermentation conditions and increase yield and reduce production costs. So the fermentation process is a method of bioethanol production. We also have anaerobic digestion, which involves the digestion of organic matter using microorganisms in the absence of oxygen, producing biogas, and they digest the biogas like methane gas. Methane gas can also serve, instead of depending on the normal fossil fuel, but anaerobic production of methane gas using methanogens can also generate gas that we can use as alternative source of energy. Then trans-esterification of triglycerides, fats, and oils with alcohol, producing biodiesels and glycerols. Now, in the current innovations is the use of non-edible oils. Instead of depending on, choose to use non-edible, which can be sustained economically in these renewable energy sources, that we can have them as alternative sources of energy. Now, one of the major advancements in renewable energy production is the enzyme engineering, which enhances, the development of, some organisms, transgenic organisms, that can enhance the degradation of lignocolic biomass. These methods can decrease dependence on the production cost of renewable energy sources. Now, another advancement in technology is what is called the synthetic biology. The impact of synthetic biology has enabled the design of microorganisms with enhanced biofuel production capabilities, such as improved tolerance to toxic byproducts. For instance, if you are generating some source of renewable energy, we could have some byproducts that could be toxic. So transgenic modification of some of these organisms can enhance the increased tolerance of these organisms on these bioproducts, on these byproducts that could be toxic to this in the energy production chain. Now, despite a significant progress, challenges remain in the widespread adoption of renewable energy sources. One of the major challenges is the high production cost and competition with fossil fuel, and also the large-scale adoption of renewable energy. Because fossil fuels are there, because of our dependence on fossil fuel, there's difficulty in adoption of these renewable energy sources. So one of the suggestions for future direction is continual research in process optimization and feedstock diversification and policy support, even by the government, to improve economic viability of bioenergy. Because as it is going, as over-dependence on fossil fuel, in the nearest future, our children may not have access to some of these energy sources. So we have to campaign and give emphasis to support, so that our government will develop policies that support bioenergy production. Now, the environmental impact of feedstock cultivation, such as land use and wastewater and water consumption, must be carefully managed. So that's why I was, in my earlier discussion, I was mentioning development of marine ecosystem for algal bloom and production. So sustainable feedstock and life cycle assessment to minimize environmental footprints has to be adopted. Now, we have policy regulation. The challenge, inconsistent policies and regulatory frameworks can be deployed in bioenergy production. So one of the challenges here is harmonization of internal energy standards and supportive policies to incentivize investment in bioenergy. So basically, from the biochemical point of view, we're actually looking at bioenergy as an alternative source, dependence on deplorable energy sources. So thank you for listening. Actually, I have to summarize it because we are not in a biochemistry class, so we will not be discussing all the pathways of the fermentations and all of that. But I'm just giving us highlights so that we understand and appreciate the need to adopt the concept of renewable energy as an option for the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ejim, for that insightful section. I've learned a lot, really, as a biochemist. I can relate. And I think, though we have a lot of questions, but I think the session is robust enough. And if we have more questions, you can. Doctor, could you please drop your LinkedIn accounts in the chat box for people that would like to join you, and or your email for people that have questions because of that.